So, switching from compassion, let's talk about loneliness. Why? Like there is always need of compassion, right? So let's, if we are to talk about loneliness, so how do you feel? Like there is literally nobody to share your life with except your comrades or your fellow monks. There is not much, like monks have in their life. So should we have expectations in relationships? So let's also talk about toxicity in relationships. So why do you feel people get attracted to toxic people or toxic relationships? How can someone be rational enough to not make the wrong choices, to not fall in the wrong path or in a well that he just can't get out of very soon? Even if you go into a relationship with the most sincere dedication or with sincere honesty, so still people fare miserably in such situations. So what do you have to say about that thing? Hello guys, welcome to the Jay and Bharat show. Today I have with me Geshe Tenzin Damchoe sir. So thank you so much for joining on the show. It's a huge honor, sir. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, and namaste and tashi dile, and hello to all the viewers and listeners.
So this is going to be a very casual conversation, but we will talk about spirituality, mindfulness. The most innate things which bother the human beings at times. So sir, let's just say if we are to, the one thing which perturbs the most people is anger. So do you have any ways to tackle anger or resentment ways as a monk?
As a monk, so some of the people, what do they think is the monks shouldn't get anger. And one should also know that we are also human beings, right? So one time, when we went for the hike on the mountain, and what I did was I took off my sunscreen and put the sunscreen. And my friend, the Indian friends, they asked me like, "Oh, Demi, why you're applying a sunscreen? Aren't you a monk?" And I said like, "The sun is not differentiating who is monk and who is not. So we are also human being. It burns equally. I have to take care of myself, right? Like the same way, now anger is a something that comes to everybody and everyone. Now the question is how you overcome the anger. So as for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, he was asked like, "Do you get angry?" And he said like, "Yes, but kind of like flash of lightning, right?" But for us, the now if you think carefully, from where does this anger comes from, right? Like the Buddha, what he said, he taught about the Four Noble Truths: the truth of suffering, the truth of original suffering, the truth of cessation, and the truth of path. So anger doesn't comes automatically. It should have a cause to it. Right. Now the cause, the main, what do we say, is out of like three delusions, like ignorance, the anger and the desire comes from the ignorance, right? So when we have too much self-attachment, like self-cherishment, like that, and also the when you have self-grasping, like, so these are the main two things, like why the anger comes to everyone. And the with the introspection, if you think very carefully why this anger is coming from, so in the end it's more of like too much self-cherishment. He didn't listen to me, she didn't do what I said, like that. इसने मुझे ये किया, उसने मुझे वो किया, सो मैं मुझको ये किया, मुझको वो बोला, इसलिए मुझे क्रोध हूँ. So now if we look in, like in terms of the time, so most of the people, they get angry because of living too much in the past. When we live in the past, automatically it will develop anger and regret. And if we live in the future, it will develop anxiety and fear. So that's why the people, they keep on saying live in the present moment.
So how should we deal with anger? Like I'm not talking about, like, should we suppress the anger? Like how can a person completely transform his or his inner self rather than just suppressing it?
There's a book written by His Holiness the Dalai Lama in the Beyond Religion. He has talked about the attachment, fear, the competition. All this has like the constructive and destructive. But as for the anger, there's no constructive. It's always destructive. right? But one teacher has asked, like, is there any possibility of like showing anger and helping to someone else, like, so without the ill feeling, right? So from the outside, the appearance, it looks like fierce and the and also in a rude, but the motivation, it's positive, right? So with the benefit of the other person, with the so you the in the East, we use the term wrathful, but in the West, in America, they use the term tough love,
Yes.
right? So with the ill feeling, developing anger is not good. But with a positive motivation and thinking of helping the other by showing a little bit using a harsh words, but without the ill feeling, it's going to help for the other person. So normally, if we just the introspect, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama keeps on saying, oh, the Buddha said, don't get angry, don't tell lie. So if you just think like that, then it becomes a dogmatic. So one should know with the using your own introspection, if I develop an anger, how does it affect to me and how does it affect to the others? If I tell lie, how does it affect to someone else and to me? So with the using a logic, so you have to see from where this anger is coming from, and it needs to have it needs to be overcome, right? But the cross culture differences
I
in the
get the
East,
point, sir.
what do we say is show tolerance, but in the West, what do they say is like you have to take out your emotions, right? So sometimes what we feel is like if we resort to anger, it will help, but in reality, it's not going to help. It's going to harm for yourself.
Get the point, sir. So also talking, if you are to talk about anger, let's talk about love, the whole opposite of hurt. So do you believe that it's possible to love without attachment? Like how does the religion of
Of
Buddhism
course.
differentiate between the two?
So over here, let's say the love and the like. So the in one of the Facebook, it says like if you go to the park, no, let's say like if you go to the garden and if you see the flower, if you like it, you will pluck it and you will use it. If you love it, you will let it grow, right? Like the same way over here, now one has to use the logic, the compassion. So when you develop a compassion and the love, so relationship between mother and the child, it's more of like biological, right? Now, why should I show love and compassion and show tolerance to the towards your enemy, right? So that's why in the Buddhism, the Shantideva, what it says is, your enemy is your greatest teacher. Why? Because when you show love, compassion towards the enemy, you don't have any expectations in return. But as for the love and compassion that what we feel, it's more of like attachment. It's not a genuine love. So like let's say like the parents when they take their children to the park in the evening, when someone children falls down, like, hello, excuse me, some children fell down, like that. When your friend's children falls down, hey Minakshi, tera bacha gir gaya, like that. Then when your own children fell down, hey mera latla, like that. So same the same three children, but with a different attitude. So it clearly shows its attachment. If it's a genuine compassion, you will have the same reaction no matter
For
who the
everyone.
children they are.
So we do a lot of Buddhist podcasts. I'll just ask you upfront. Sir, what does the religion of Buddhism can give to someone who is not a spiritual practitioner
Of course,
or is
of
not into
course,
Buddhism or is even an atheist?
of
Like
course.
what can the religion give to someone who is totally just totally unaware of everything
Yes,
that this
so
religion has to
His
offer?
Holiness the Dalai Lama divides the Buddhist into three divisions: Buddhist science, Buddhist philosophy, and the Buddhist religion. So as for the Buddhist science and the Buddhist philosophy, it's not the like the when you talk on the Buddhist science and the Buddhist philosophy, it's not necessary that one should be a Buddhist, right? So that's why the science, they when you talk about Buddhist science and Buddhist philosophy, they call the Buddha's teaching is a science of mind, right? So Buddhist science is something to look for effect. Buddhist philosophy is something to look for the possibilities. And the Buddhist religion, then it comes of a faith, right? then it's something to do with that. So Buddhist science and the Buddhist philosophy is, what do we call it? It's an analytical meditation. Anyone can talk, right? So he's always keeps on saying, when I talk about love, compassion, kindness, it's not necessary that you should think that I'm talking from the Buddhist point of view. When you talk about love, compassion, kindness, it's a universal talk. It's a secular ethics, right? So in the previous times, like the scientists, they keep on doing research on the anger and the hatred and all these things. So when they met His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama gives a suggestion, you guys have tools already. So how about changing the things, right? The subject on or the studies. So rather than the studying on the anger, how about like the studying on the love, compassion, kindness, like that? So they have done lots of research, right? Now, from the Buddhist perspective, like when so as for normal people, the Buddha's teaching, they call it is a law of nature. But as for the scientists, for the academic, they call it a science of mind. But those who are seeking for the liberation, they call it a path to enlightenment. So it depends upon how you perceive it. So it's not necessary that the one should be a Buddhist, right? So with the collaboration between the His Holiness the Dalai Lama, with the leadership under the leadership of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and lots of monks, now they are doing lots of research with the Stanford University and all these things. So when we talk about the Buddhist science, we talk about the cosmology, neurology, quantum physics, modern psychology. So I keep on saying to the students that the Buddhism is not only Om Shanti Om. We talk about the academic, right? Now with the neurology, now with the meditation, now the scientists, they talk about neuroplasticity, right? Neuro pathways, neurogenesis. Now, if you have watched the documentary made by the Morgan Freeman, he has talked about neurotheology. So, with the collaboration of all these things, the new terms, now there's lots of new findings. So, it's not necessary that one should be a Buddhist. So, Richard Davidson and all these things, they are not a Buddhist, right? And also at the same time, when we talk about the consciousness can be divided into three. The science, what do they say? It says mind is a derivative of a brain. When the brain dies, the mind dies. But what we say is like not the mind. We use the consciousness. The consciousness grows subtle, very subtle. So the gross one, like eye consciousness, nose consciousness, it has to depend on the brain. Then the subtle one, when you go to a deep sleep, so it also goes into something else. So it's more of like uh, a trailer of a death. So eye consciousness, nose consciousness, that gets submerged into the sixth mental consciousness. The science that talks about only five mental consciousness. We talk about the six mental consciousness. This further we divide this into 51 or 52 mental factors. Then we do the in the end, what do we call is the very, very subtle mind. It doesn't have to depend upon the brain. So what we call is the clear light meditation. So clinically, the body state, the mind is still very much active. So now these days, the Russian scientists as well as the American scientists, they are doing lots of research on it. So it's not necessary that one should be a Buddhist.
Sir, are you feeling slightly low on energy today, or maybe you're not speaking very loudly? Like this kind. If you are doing good, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So
But I'm
slightly lightly, like with more energy and with more
okay,
action.
okay.
Yeah. Just more like I was like, sir, like as sir already started a spiritual journey towards attaining moksha. And it's very low. Yes, sir. So let's talk about compassion.
Yes, yes,
So do
yes.
you believe that we can turn compassion into a dedicated social service and avoid burnout?
Yes, of course. There's one.
How?
So let's say, like,
Let's just say, for example, if I am quitted to the world and I'm very compassionate, what will be like there are always tipping points for people, like for example, if someone gets hurt, or if someone is in a breakup, they are like सारी दुनिया ही ऐसी है या फिर that there is no world, there is no love, there is no empathy, there is no compassion out there. So people feel very toxic, people feel resentment from the whole world. So how to tackle these things? Ki, if I should be so compassionate, so empathetic, so sympathetic towards the people, that it's always a forever thing. So what do you have to say about that?
So the thing is, let's say the people, especially when we go to the rehab center and when they comes out, and some people they get relapse, thinking that dunya, let's say or every society, they are not trusting me like that. So the important thing is what I felt was, and also in a society, what we need is love, trust, and compassion towards them, right? So rather than the social ostracize, let's say neglecting them, it's important to involve in the activities. It's involved to invite them and develop a self-confidence. Then only I think that we will have a change. Otherwise, sometimes like when the people, when they keep on doing wrong things, and when we don't trust in them, then it becomes very difficult.
But so the thing is, how do we turn this thing into a dedicated social
So
action?
regarding the compassion, there are two ways developing a compassion: one through the logic, one through the emotion. So the Emory University scientists, they have done a research on the medical students. So the medical students, they compassion keeps on falling down as they become senior and senior. And what do they call is the compassion fatigue, right? So like the same way, when we develop a compassion through the emotion, then what happens is, "Arey yaar, oh, he looks so pity." Then we give him 5 rupees like that, right? Out of generosity. Then what happens is the next day, what you will say is, "Arey, I gave you yesterday, right?" Then on the third day, I will say, "I already gave you." Then the fourth day, "Do something." Then on the fifth day, I will avoid, right? So this is more of like developing a compassion through the emotion, not through the logic.
I get the point.
Yes. So when you develop a compassion through the logic, so let's say like whether my short-term happiness or long-term happiness, it totally depends upon the others, like that. Then it helps you to s- stay your compassion more long-lasting.
So, switching from compassion, let's talk about loneliness. Why it like there is always need of compassion, right? So let's if you are to talk about loneliness, so how do you feel loneliness should be tackled? Because I will just personally ask you, you are a monk, right? So don't you ever feel lonely? Like
Yeah.
there is literally nobody to share your life with except your comrades or your fellow monks. There is not much, like monks have in their life.
Yes,
So
yes.
you should personally share your own experiences with loneliness if you have at any. I'm not sure because I think monks really live a very great life overall. But overall, how would you deal with the issue of loneliness?
So regarding the loneliness, the I always ask to the students, do you know Akon?
Do you know Akon?
Akon, Akon.
Yeah, singer.
And the singer, and I used to sing for them. Lonely, I used to be lonely on my own, like that. Then the Britney Spears song, "My Loneliness, It's Killing Me," like that. So yeah, like as for me, when my parents and my teacher passed
Sorry,
away.
monk में Britney Spears और Akon कहाँ से आ गया आप बन रहे हैं?
No, the thing is, like, I became a monk lately, right? So I know all these songs,
I
like, so rather than listening only to the music, I
Yeah.
just try to correlate what the singer is trying to say, what's the singer is trying to give you a message, right? So regarding the when my parents and my teacher passed away, yeah, I felt a little bit. Then listen to his honest the Dalai Lama's teaching, and also reading the scriptures and all these things. Then it helped me to overcome, right? So, but during the pandemic, one of our senior Geshe, a monk, when he was asked, like, "Don't you feel loneliness?" He said, "I'm thinking about the 7 billion human being. I don't have time to think of myself."
Oh God. Good answer,
So
honestly.
yeah,
Wonderful.
like the thing is, like the main thing is over here, the loneliness comes from the expectation, right? So I always need to tell to my students that they don't expect. So the Buddha's friends, like in the end, when they were about to depart, he asked the Buddha, now we are going to depart and we are not going to see each other forever. So can you just give me one teaching and or advice? And the Buddha said, never expect. So most of us, we have expectation, right?
So should we have
So
expectation in relationships?
so I always tell to the
Like, do you think it's
students,
possible?
I always tell to the students, like, expectation, aim, and hope shouldn't keep at the same bar. Aim and hope should be kept at the same bar at high, but expectation very low. Why? Because once there is expectation, there is a give and take. Then it's a business, right? So that's why the scientists, what do they say is, like, the people who tries to make others happy, they are the most saddest person from the within. But the scientists, they forgot to say, if there's expectation. If there's no expectation, then that's fine, right? The other person, out of like gratitude, even if he does something or not, he won't feel bad. But when you have an expectation, then automatically you will expect something in return. So when it doesn't fulfill your own expectation, then you get anger, hatred, jealousy, enmity, ill feeling, and all these things, right? So what we say is, keep your expectation very low, aim and hope very high.
Talking about keeping expectations very
So
low.
yes, so when we have lots of expectation in relationship, right, automatically you will expect that people will come and talk to me, people will come and invite me, like that. When they don't do it, then you feel lonely.
Yes, sir. So, sir, talking about keeping expectations very low. So let's also talk about toxicity in relationships. So why do you feel people get attracted to toxic people or toxic relationships? Like, people know that this person might not be a good fit for me. Like, I'm talking about relationship wise, right? It could be like irrespective of the kind of relationship that people engage in, but people get attracted to toxic people. Either it's men, either it's women. So what do you feel like, if, let's just say, if I'm attracted to someone, let I might see some signs that this person is not good for me, but I'll still try to cling on. But and then
True, true,
eventually
true,
I'll get very hurt in the long
true,
run.
true,
So
true,
why do people
true,
get
true,
attracted to all the wrong things of a person
true, true,
mostly?
true, true.
What is it?
No matter who we are, like
Do
whether
monks also get attracted to toxic people?
elder, whoever it may be. This morning we just had a talk,
Yeah.
we just had a discussion. The things that we ask them to do it, they don't do it, right? Like the Sundays, like during the weekdays, we don't feel like to get up early in the morning. But Saturday and Sunday, 5 baje mein, like at around 5, like we get awake, right? So from the Buddhist perspective point of view, so what do we say is, like, so maybe like in Three Idiots, बोलते हैं ना. So I will help those people, those students who are the poorest, right? So like the same way, when as for those people who have got everything, it's fine. But those people who doesn't have like any privilege, so you just try to help them, right?
Right, sir.
So it's more of like, and also the human behavior and character, right? So we get attracted.
But sir, the thing is, where does rationality comes in? How can a person become rational about making decisions? Like, emotionality, vulnerability, sympathy, empathy, like these things all matter. But how can someone be rational enough to not make the wrong choices, to not fall in the wrong path, or in a well that he just can't get out of very soon?
We all are human being, right? So if we know what's going to be the consequences, then we won't do it,
Yes.
right? But out of like the curiosity, sometimes we do it, right?
Yeah.
So we just want to experience it in the whole life, right? In the whole life, like what we feel is, oh, I need to experience this, I need to experience that. But the attraction, so regarding these things, like, so if it's for the lifelong forever, then it's a different thing, right? Sometimes the people they are of do it for the experience, sometimes they just for the enjoyment,
Yes.
sometimes like they just for the pass,
Yeah.
to take out once your anger, once emotion, and wants to get rid of your daily mundane life.
Absolutely. But the thing is, I get your point. Like some people go into casual, in casual curious ways of exploring new ways or new things. But if someone is genuinely interested and is genuinely, striving for a good cause, and still is in a very bad situation, like in a toxic relationship, or maybe like if someone is hoping for the worst, like hoping for the best, and it becomes out to be the worst, then what should that person do? At that point, even if you go into relationship with the most sincere dedication or with sincere honesty, still people fare miserably in such situations. So what do you have to say about that thing?
So as for the
Like, can we
relationship,
control our mind enough not to fall in enough pits, because life is way too long for us to just keep falling back in pits.
true, true, true. So that's why what we say is we shouldn't let the mind to be controlled by the body. Body should be controlled by the mind, right? So when we let the mind to be controlled by the body, so as for the human beings, so let's say in terms of like the pleasure to happiness too, right? So two different types of happiness. One people they keep on seeking happiness from the within, one people they keep on seeking happiness from the outside. So the people who try to seek happiness from the outside, it's more of like a material, right? It's more of like a material. So oh, it's more of like sensorial pleasure, right? So sometimes what do we do is like we just the want to experience lots of things. So that's why in the Buddhism, what do we say? In the Tibetan, what do we say is hope for the best, prepare for the worst,
Absolutely.
right?
People just don't do
So
it.
yeah, but we don't know what's going to happen, right? So if I tell you frankly, the one time one of my friend's friend told me that the his father came to see him and asked him like, is there any girl that you want me to introduce for my boy? Why? Because I'm looking for a wife for my son. And like he said like, for some, if they have the beauty but there's no brain, if they have got a brain and the beauty but they have no character. So he said to him, as for the beauty, it fades, it's impermanent. But as for the character, some people before the marriage they are very good. Some people then after the marriage they become very bad. And before the marriage, some people they are very bad, and after the marriage they become good, right? So character keeps on changing. But as for the knowledge is concerned, if you study more, then you will, if you pursue for more, then you will gain more knowledge. And if you want like a girl with the beauty, with the brain, with the character and everything, and you just pray to Tara and let her the ask her to come down for his son's wife. So as for the human being, like you never know. Why? Because sometimes bad person becomes good person becomes bad person, right? So you don't have any kind of like a guarantee like the Angulimala.
Get your point. So
Yeah, Angulimala, despite killing 999 people, he became a monk and he attained the Arahat. Like the King Ashoka, he was fearsome murderer. Then later he became one of the greatest messenger of Buddha.
right, so
So you
right.
never know like the person, the we can't say that this person is going to become a bad person for the whole life, and this person is going to be a good person for the whole life. Enemy becomes the best friend becomes the enemy. So there's no guarantee. So that's why we have to see everyone as a equanimity.
The smell of noodles is very strong, to be honest.
Foodies.
Do you like to eat noodles, by the way? Just asking
Yes.
off the
There is
record.
a foodie every weekend McDorian. Promise. Brownie then donuts. His love language.
So, uh, God. So, do you have any spiritual practices or any attitude towards life? Because people fear death. People fear death a lot of times, and they are unable to deal with the uncertainties of life. So, do you have any attitudes or any do you have any spiritual practice or any spiritual mindset towards it? Like, if people or if even if I am concerned about these things, how would you calm a person? How would you tell a person to be sane and deal this issue upfront? So, like, what do you have to say about this?
In the West, to talk about death, aging, sickness, it's a kind of like taboo. But now the in India, like especially in the Hindus, Jainism, and the Buddhist, it's the we talks about the impermanence all the time. Like it's not a kind of like a taboo. Now these days, due to the globalization, and it's becoming more advanced, corporate, so the people they started avoiding talking about the impermanence, death, aging, sickness like that. So the Buddha, when he talked about the Four Noble Truths, and some of the non-Buddhist masters, like they accuse him by saying, from right from the very beginning, you make the people unhappy, demoralized, talking about the suffering. And the Buddha said, I said this well because there's a solution to come out of it. That's why talked about the suffering first. So the people who accept the reality and the impermanence, they will have less suffering of the less suffering in a sense, less fear of all these things. Why? Because being a practical and realistic. In the Buddhism, when we talk about the death, about the meditation, there are different types of meditation. Meditation on love, meditation on compassion, meditation on death, meditation on emptiness. Meditation on death, it's not to make oneself remorse and sad. The meditation on death is to make a preparation when the real kind of like a problem comes and how you will tackle with it. Like His Holiness the Dalai Lama keeps on saying that the I do 5 hours of meditation, and out of 5 hours of meditation, three meditation is on death meditation. So when we do the death meditation, it's not to make think that oh now I'm going to die like that. So the as for the death, when we talk about the death in the Buddhism, especially in the Tantric, it says like there are 8 stages of death. So it's more of like visualizing the oh now first stage, second stage, third stage, fourth stage, fifth stage, sixth stage, seventh stage, eighth stage. I should think like this. I should think like that. Right. So this one it helps you to prepare. So now the people who don't like try to be practical and realistic. So when the death comes, when the aging, the sickness comes, so we fear, right? So that's why the people they do lots of plastic surgeries now these days, right? They thinking about the aging and all these things. So it's a law of nature that we can't do anything, right? And the one of the famous yogi of Tibet, the Milarepa, what he said was, why one need to afraid of death? The death is in between inhale and exhale, right? So in a Buddhism, we believe in the life after death, right? So what do we say? Death is not an end; it's just a beginning, right? So if you try to be practical and realistic and accept, then it will help you to overcome the fear of death and impermanence. So that's why what do we say is harsh reality is better than false hope. Thinking that nothing is going to happen me, nothing is going to change like that. If you think very carefully in like the impermanence, it looks like oh, it's very easy to understand, but technically and realistic, it's very fearsome. Why? Because Years depends upon the month. Month depends upon the weeks. Weeks depends upon the days. Days depends upon the hours. Hours depends upon the minute. Minutes depends upon the second. Second depends upon the nanosecond. Right. 15th May 2025, 11 a.m. will never come in our life now. It's gone.
Absolutely.
Right. But what we think is like nothing is happening. Nothing has happened. Right. So if we keep on changing and by thinking on the impermanence, it will help you to shape a better person. Right. Showing a contentment and try to be a little bit realistic. Not to get attached. Not to having the idea of externalism like that.
You get your point, sir. So,
Yeah.
just one last question to go away with. So, what do you feel about, let's just say, stress, doubts, anxieties? Like, these are difficult times for a human being. So, if you do personally experience these things at times, so do you have any developed spiritual practices or any mantras or any things or any mindset which you have developed which makes you connected with your inner strength?
There is no mantra, the like chanting, right, or praying to the God. So His Holiness keeps on saying all these problems are man-made problem and has to be solved by the man itself. By praying to God, it if it helps, then lots of our problems will be solved. But we created it and we need to tackle it. We created it, we ask someone else to help us to remove, it's very difficult, right? So from the science point of view, what they think is it's some kind of like chemical imbalance. But true, like there's a connection between mind and body, right? So that's why the Sujata, when the Siddhartha was meditating, Sujata offered him a food. And he said, I'm working for enlightenment. I don't live like a common people. I don't show on the desire food. So, but the Sujata said, without the body, how you'll attain enlightenment? Healthy mind comes from healthy body. Then the Buddha thought like, the Siddhartha thought like, oh, when I was in the palace, I have got all the facilities and I can't concentrate. Now, why? Because there's lots of disturbances. Now there's no one to disturb me, but still I'm not able to focus, right? Why be in the forest? Then he found the middle way approach. What he discovered was the true happiness lies between the true opposite, self-mortification and self-indulgence. Then he accept the food of then in return what he said to her was healthy body comes from healthy mind, right? So the body and the mind, they are very much correlated. So most of the people, they give too much importance on the body, not on the mind. So to look good, to look healthy, they will try to eat the organic food, they try to go to the gym, they try to do some exercise, but they never think about their mental, right? Oh, I'm getting stress, I'm getting anger, how should I do it like that? So is there any kind of method? But to go to the gym and all these things, we can order from the Amazon. To sustain, to keep this body healthy, we have to invest a lots of money. But to keep our mind healthy, we don't need even a single penny, right? All the happiness is within us. So far, we have discovered only anxiety, fear, anger, hatred, jealousy. We let all these things to come out, but not the love, compassion, kindness. We can't order love and compassion, kindness from the Amazon, from the shopping malls like that. It's already within us. We don't have to pay, right? What we need is a time and we need to figure it out.
Get
So
your point,
that's
sir.
why what do we call is mind training. Is it possible? Yes. When Ashoka, when Angulimala, when they were able to do it, why can't we? Right.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
So stress, anxiety, as I've told you earlier, if we live in the future, they will develop more of like fear. It will develop fear, anxiety, stress like that. If we live in the past, it will develop more of like anger and regret. So that's why important thing is live in the present moment. That's why it's called gift, right? So we keep on thinking what we don't have. We don't think what we have. Then when we keep on thinking what we don't have, we just try to compare our life with someone else. Then we keep on complaining, right? So all this stress and all these things, it has to be solved by the mind. So now these days, lots of people, especially the youngsters, they resort to a drugs, right? Dopamine,
Yes. Yeah.
serotonin. Then they also talk, now these days talk about the psychedelic and all these things. They think that anxiety and all these things related with the chemicals. It's true, it's related, but the root is the ignorance. Too much self-cherishment and too much self-grasping.
Very
So
well
if we
articulated,
just
sir.
uproot from the bottom, from the root itself, then it would come. So by taking medicine and all these things, the Buddha, about the suffering, the suffering of change. So the mushroom and psychedelic and all these things for the stress, it gives you a pleasure. It helps you to come out of the suffering, but for a short period. And when you keep on taking it, since it's a chemical substance, it's going to harm to the body, and you will become a drug addict. And what do we call this? The suffering of change. Pleasure turning into suffering. So meditation will help you to know the reality, and it will help you to come out of these problems. So meditation, it's not only about thinking nothingness. One needs to do the analytical meditation. So why does the stress coming? Why does the stress is coming? Why does I get anger? All these things. Then how should I overcome it? So mind problem has to be solved by the mind in the end. So we are in, like, we are human being. There's ups and downs, right?
Get the point,
So
sir.
the main thing is accept the reality and face it, right? Two people, one run away from the problem, one face the problem and live with it.
Very well articulated, sir. Very well articulated. Thanks so much, sir, for your time. It was really lovely conversation. Some deep dives as well, but it was truly honest, commendable, sir. Thank you so much.
My
Humble,
pleasure.
sir. Humble.